The content of this video is not medical advice or a substitute for physical therapy. Please consult your physician or physical therapist before starting any exercise program.
This week's tip is all about improving hip mobility after a long day of sitting. So whether you've been sitting in your chair at work, or you've been driving all day, or you've been sitting in an airplane, I've got 3 easy exercises that you can do in almost no time to loosen up those hips. So all you need is a lightly padded surface and maybe a couple of props depending on how tight those hips are. Let's go and have a seat to get started. So what I want you to do is sit with both knees falling to one side. So you can probably see that I've got my right leg rotated inward and my left leg rotated outward so that both feet are pointed in the same direction. And I want you to sit really tall in this position. If you find when you're in this position that this inwardly rotated hip is really tight and pulling or feeling kind of pinchy, or that your knees are feeling like they're twisting, then go ahead and grab an overstuffed pillow, maybe like one of those throw pillows we might use to put on a sofa or the bed or something, but get something that's kind of high that sits you up a little bit, and that should create a little bit more openness around the front of the hip and allow your hip to relax and take the pressure off your knees. We want to make sure that your start position is strain-free. Now, once you've found your ideal start position, I want you to sit really tall. In other words, make sure your spine has nothing to do with this next movement as you rotate your legs to face the other direction. So you can see I kept my feet on the floor and I just rolled my knees over to the other side. That's all hip motion, not spine motion. And we're going to just continue to transition back and forth roughly 5 times per side, keeping the spine really long and the feet on the floor. Now, if you feel that your hips are just too tight to make it look like I'm making it look, lean back a little farther, get away from those knees so that you can maintain that nice long spine position as your hips are rolling from side to side. So do what you need to do to stay long and tall through the spine and keep the motion in the hips. All right, now once you're done with your 5 repetitions, we're going to just transition to the next exercise. But before we do, I just want to remind you that if you really find this content helpful, please go ahead and click like, click all the buttons, leave me a comment or a question. I'd love to hear from you. And then please do share it with friends and family who you think could really benefit from it. All right, so we're going to transition into our next exercise, which involves kneeling. So I'm going to move my pad out of the way, and I'm going to sit on my heels. Now, if you think to yourself, there is no way I can sit on my heels like that, it's going to hurt my knees or my ankles or something, then find a prop, whether it's a yoga block or 2, or maybe a small stack of books, and put that prop between your feet so that you can kind of sit up off your heels. So obviously I could raise myself up even more if I need to accommodate tight knees or tight ankles or whatever it is that's bugging you. But this is your start position, and when you found your good start position, what I want you to do is push with your lower legs here and use your buttocks ideally to drive your hips forward under your shoulders. So ideally you're using your motor back here as the thing that is pushing you into hip extension. So you're coming up onto your knees here. And notice that my back is just along for the ride. So this should not be a back extension. You should feel no stress back here as you drive the hips forward. Do your best to keep your pelvis relatively vertical. So if you tend towards a little pelvic tilt in your normal posture, see if you can kind of coax that tailbone downward so that as you drive the hips forward, there is no stress in your back. So we're going to do about 5 of these, and then when you're done with your 5, we're going to transition into a half kneeling position. Now, you may recognize half kneeling position as a typical hip flexor stretch, but we're going to give this one a little twist today. What I want you to do is stay there only momentarily. You might feel the front of that hip opening, and then you're going to switch forward legs. Now you might notice, depending on how tight your hips are, that you have to really circle that leg around to switch forward legs. And that's okay, because circling the leg and the hip is just as good a hip motion as bending and straightening the hip is. So whatever your flexibility level or your mobility level around the hip, you can use it in this little exercise. Do, however, keep your spine out of it. So try to use your abdominals to stabilize your lower back and stay nice and tall. And of course, you can always hold on to a wall or a chair or something for balance. This is not meant to be a balance challenge. It's only meant to get your hips moving again and make them feel really good after a day of sitting. So that's all I've got for you this week. I hope you found this helpful. Until I see you next time, keep moving and be well.